And by a keneponi muno, asim kanko chiri yazelo. I should know Gadikechi, a child agwago, who try Kurochako yadiri. Ise, Ediko Side. Abas no teruno zabo, Eastern News 24. Boba Stamaka Yabifene Minobadano Libya. And the update, Bastamaka Biafran Prime Minister, na Finland. Alright, if I would tell you, Buyende TVC News, Nido Bastamaka Biafran Prime Minister, Simon Ekpo. Nande Finland, he sees got all his property because of treason allegation in Yelia. Mana all update that you Bruno Galaga Bastamaki one night about Biafran Prime Minister's update na Finland. We see no Gidibam. But if you be fable, one of onye kwuru no Finland. And don't know obodo ka we mari name no obodo. Mana kan jide ne yeba. Gen ye TVC News wali yiku. Unu gese bi funa tia alon ku ni funche ni ro akwo Bastamaka yebu yenda niile faku ni ro akwo no bosinketa. All right, over to you.
All right, gentlemen. Fighting terrorism demands the disruption of financial networks that fuel violence. In a significant move, the government of Finland has seized the assets of the factional leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Ekpa, Simon Ekpo, over allegations of inciting violence in southeast Nigeria. Reports also showed that Ekpa is being remanded in prison, which is reputed to be one of the world's toughest prisons. Gentlemen, I mean, many thought nothing would happen to Simon Ekpo because he's a citizen, and that's what his fans are saying.
I'm so excited what is happening because Simon Ekpo is extremely responsible man.
This is more trouble for him.
Very responsible man. He sat down in his flat in Finland and he will be sending all manner of messages, creating all manners of problems. And then he deluded himself that he has formed a government in exile, and he kept doing things. And the reason for that was that he believed that, oh, I'm in Finland, there's nothing they can't touch me there. And it took a long time, but eventually we got there. Because what the states will have done is what we're doing now, to complain officially. Because there are enough evidences, because the guy usually do videos. He gives all instruction mostly through videos. So there are enough evidence to show that this guy is a terrorist. And he's doing a lot of things in the southeast. Even at the time, the officials of IPOP were saying that we are not with this guy. He's just on his own. And he went on this illusion that is the leader of so-called Biafra in exile. And he kept doing all manner of things. So now that the state has been able to convince, the Nigerian state has been able to convince the government of Finland and provided evidence, and is now being tried for terrorism, that's the best news that we can get.
So this is more trouble for
Oh, trouble. He's on his way to jail. In fact, I pray that he should go to jail.
All right. Adeoye, you know, his fans have described this latest action by the Finnish government as I want to get the right words, transnational repression against him. They said Finnish government betrayed their trust. I don't know what that means.
Well, I don't think there was any prior alliance between the government of Finland and Ekpo, except that Simon Ekpo exploited the age-long history of Finland, which is one of the places where freedom of speech is guaranteed to his best. He exploited that freedom to his best advantage, but with consequences, because freedom of speech is not absolute. You know, there are limits all over the world. You know, to the extent that there are certain things you say that can be, you know, seen and really against the law of the land. So I think seizing his assets is a major step that will actually affect his morale, because without funding, there is no way Simon Ekpo will have been able to carry out, you know, the chain of activities, you know, maintain the chain of commands, you know, that are under him. So I think the Finnish government decided to, you know, to hold him, you know, in a very strategic area by taking over his assets. And I believe that this is not the end of the story, but I think it's a huge defeat for him and his group. We must also not forget that there are factions in IPOP. He only represents a faction. there are other two factions, There are, Kano's group and then one other group that is just a little bit. So I think that I also do not align with the strategy of Simon Ekpo. If you are talking about self-determination to fight for a people's right to political autonomy, it's a right guaranteed by United Nations, an African charter. But those charters emphasize the process that must be peaceful means of agitation. But when you begin to set messages across the world, fighting almost every ethnic group in the country apart from your own, and attacking people, instigating violence, asking people to go to police stations and seize both those police stations, I think it is not a good strategy. Even the ANC never adopted that kind of strategy, openly at least. But, he has portrayed himself as somebody who will be seen as a very violent man. And I think probably his problem is lack of experience in terms of struggle. If you want to be a good leader, you must read about other struggles all over the world, in Cuba, in South Africa, and the methods that they have adopted. Because Mandela was the head of the ANC group that were fighting, even had organized training, but they did it covertly, to the extent that they were not making open statements and all that. And if you are fighting for self-determination, did you think that you are not going to relate with other ethnic groups in Nigeria in future, even if you have Biafra? Are you going to say that you are not going to relate with your neighbors, with the Kwere, Ijaw, with Yoruba people, but you try to demonize every other ethnic group, even those that may even have sympathy for you? So I think he's a very reckless person, tactless, and I think by now you must have seen the consequences that waging self-determination struggle needs a lot of wisdom. It's not just about, it's not, I hope so. But by seizing his asset, I know that this thing will really affect him,
But is there also a possibility that he manipulates his way out of prison? Because, I saw a report today where he allegedly told the Finnish government that he's just a content creator. And the issue of Prime Minister...
That's a joke, because...
It's not serious.
That has to do with forming a government, a Biafran government in exile. That's not what I said is that there are evidences, because he used to do videos. There are videos where he has asked people, it was one of those that said people should stay at home. There are videos that he has said if people violate that order, they should be disciplined. There are videos where he asks people to attack policemen in the southeast region. There are a lot of videos where he preached violence. So that's why I said it took a long time for the government to do the needful. What you just needed to do is that, because what he was working on was that, I'm here, there's nothing they can do. This is abroad. Nobody can come and...
But if you say it took the federal government a long time to do the needful, do you think this is because the southeast governors have been quiet themselves?
Yes, because when he was doing that, because of the violence, a lot of the governors in the southeast cannot really come out openly, because anybody that does not go along with what they want, they visit you with violence. And there's no place that they've killed policemen like southeast. They kill them regularly. He instructs people to inflict violence on people. And that's what I said, that's evidence, because there are videos that are there. Finland will not, when Kanu was in England, you understand, they didn't agree that we should come and take him. They didn't extradite him to Nigeria, because they believe that as a citizen he has rights and all that. But in his own case, the federal government should now did what they should have done earlier, but by formally complaining to the Finnish government, showing evidences that this guy is a terrorist and is inciting violence in the southeast parts of Nigeria. It was on that basis that he was arrested. It was on that basis that his assets were seized. His assets were seized not because he declared the state of Biafra. You can declare anything that you want yourself, but his assets was seized because he was inciting violence in the southeast, and he has proven himself to be a terrorist. And normally, when you are a terrorist, part of the thing is that your assets will be, because he was asking money from people. People used to contribute money to them. That is what he was using to do all those things. So his assets is perceived to be a proceed of crime. So is detained in prison because they now see him as terrorist based on the fact that was adduced to and forwarded to the Finnish government. So what his defense is weak. He can say that, oh, if I say that I formed Biafra, state of Biafra in exile, which he did, that is content, that I'm a content creator. I'm just trying to create content. Fine. But you cannot say that the videos that show you inciting violence in the Southeast, instructing people to attack policemen and attack people that do not agree with you, that cannot be accepted.
All right.
That is terrorism.
All right, gentlemen, let's go on a break. We'll come back. Let's go on a break, and when we come back, we will continue this conversation. Stay with us, everyone. Welcome back to Journalist Hangout on Sunday. I've been hanging out with Adewale Adeoye and Mayor Akinpelu. Gentlemen, let's move on with this conversation. You know, one of the questions I asked earlier, the last time we talked about Simon Ekpo, is whether or not this arrest is capable of bringing peace to the Southeast region. But in your observatory analysis, what you may have observed, has it?
I think the arrest will, to some extent, stem the growth of violence. But the issue is, because we need to be very honest with ourselves, there is a major issue, which is Biafra. I choose to call it the national question. This is not the first time we've had this agitation. In fact, we fought a civil war for 30 months. MASOM was the first organization that reenacted this movement. And then, I think in 2010, we had Biafra's Zionist movement, led by Benjamin Owoka, who a British Nigerian lawyer. In 2012, he declared Biafra on November 5. I can't forget. He declared Biafra. Then in 2014, I think March 7, he and about 100 people, they attacked the government house in Enugu. Then they also attacked broadcasting house. 100 of them were arrested. They were taken to court. Onwuka was detained. Later, they were released for want of evidence. It was after this group that APOP came. APOP organized rallies, and then they were attacked. So they claimed 150 people were killed. We don't know. Maybe not up to that. So you can say that from Ojukwu, we had MASOM. From there to Biafra Zionist movement. Then IPOP, we had Kanu. When Kanu was no longer out, we have Ekpa. It gives us the impression that if we arrest Simon Ekpa today, another woman has been appointed.
I saw a picture this morning.
It means that, look, there is a problem on our hands. We just need to be very honest. It's good to be politically correct. There is a major problem of the national question. My only disagreement is that no violence. But it is time for us to sit down and talk about the future of this country. It's like each time you arrest someone comes out again. And that people should not adopt violence. In the UK, people are agitating for self-determination, but they are not going violent. The Irish Republican Army used to do that, but now they have considered to negotiate. And their party recently made a lot of roadmap. So this even in Quebec, in Canada, the Quebec French-speaking, they have produced more prime ministers. But they are still saying they don't want to be part of Canada. They organized a referendum. So this idea of saying that Nigeria is indissoluble and all that, I think it's rubbish. This is rubbish. We need to sit down and say, look, gentlemen, let us talk, but no violence. We don't want to fight war. Let us talk with our brothers and sisters. What are the things that we want? What are the things we can do? And I think I can see progress being made. The government is talking about state police. So we need to do things that at least will make people to put down their guns so that we are brothers, we are Africans. So that we can sit down together and have a country that is based on our own wish. That we can agree on the conditions that we want to live together.
All right, Mayor, would you like to react to that?
We discussed this issue some time ago on this, and I said the marriage between the nationalities within Nigeria is a Catholic marriage. There's no divorce there. We have passed the stage of divorce. It's a Catholic marriage. What we should do is to look at how we can be fair to all the nationalities within the Nigerian space. And I remember that the last time I said, for example, the Southeast has less states than the other geopolitical zone. So it's only fair for us to create a state in the Southeast. While others have most states, most regions have 6, apart from North and Asabon, they have 5.
Yes.
They have 5 states. That's not fair. If we want to be sincere to ourselves, we should be able to create another state for them. We look at other injustices or perceived injustice and try to sit down and see how we can solve that problem. But Nigeria is too together for us to go our separate ways. It's not possible.
So let's be real. Is it perceived injustice or there is actual injustice?
No, there are injustices. Everybody, because yes, every geopolitical zone can come with their own. You understand? But that is why we did all those national conference and all those things. So let us go back to the last national conference. The suggestions that were made in those national conference. Let us try to execute those beautiful suggestions, because different ethnic nationalities came together under that conference and came up with their own grievances. And we can now see how we can ameliorate those grievances. But to say that in solving the national question, we allow people to go, how are we going to solve that problem? Because, for example, if the Igbo ethnic nationality wants to go, what will happen to the Yoruba ethnic nationality? What will happen to the Kanuri? What will happen to the Fulanis? You understand? You will just realize that we have a country that will become another Yugoslavia that will just be divided into several. We can't do that. We can't do that. Even the world will not allow us to divide and all that, because we have the population that nobody can take care of us. So we must learn to live together. Our marriage is a Catholic marriage. Nobody's going anywhere.
Did you hear that?
The United Nations is very clear on this, because the world fought First World War, Second World War, based on these issues of nationalism. It's like, no more war. The right to self-determination, Article 1 of the United Nations Charter. If people don't think that they want to be part of it, allow them, yes, but don't fight. So there are international laws and conventions, so many of them, that Nigeria cannot just overlook.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Let's move on to our next story.
And the bank what already name kunis Venezuela the many about one bossy or chinketa. If you would bust make a brief update, I would tell them from TVC News. Bastamaki Faku, Nisi Simon Ekpo. Na the Finland since the properties. Careful when you Bastamaka be for drop out if you chain no think again. Bastamaka be for Eastern is 24. Where I see when I tell you your boys. Your camper. One can miss